Hi everybody, it's Ros from North Mayo Fine Art. In today's video I want to show you how to create the effect of mud or dirt on a tyre, and I'll be working on this large front tyre here. Now I probably won't get the whole thing done during the video, but I just want to give you an idea of how to actually achieve the look of not only the rubber but also the mud that you would normally find on a tractor wheel. So as you can see, I've got the lines already mapped in of where the actual treads are on the tractor, but I haven't got any other lines mapped in because I'm going to freehand actually the areas of colour. But what I want to do first is to make sure I get my darks in the right place. I am going to use my warm grey 6 from the Polychromos, and I'm actually going to put down just some colour in the dark areas so that I know where the darks are going to be. So I will start doing that. Now, because the tyre is dirty and has got lots of different textures on it, I don't particularly need to use my blenders to actually blend anything out today, because we're not looking for a specifically smooth look. So that's absolutely fine. We can just use the pencils, and if I do want to smooth anything out or blend anything out, I'll use the pencils to do it today rather than actually any blenders. I just want to get the initial dark areas down. If any of you have any questions about any of my videos or any of my work, please feel free to message me. I'm always happy to receive messages from people wanting to ask questions. It's how we all learn and how we all improve. Now I'm constantly looking at my reference photo when I'm doing this section, because it's so important to get your dark areas where they need to be. They don't have to be as dark as they're going to be, but they do need to be in the right place. So that's what I'm working on at the minute. As you can see, I've got a very sharp pencil because I want to make the lines as fine as I can. If you try making deliberate lines in specific areas, you can absolutely guarantee that it just ends up as a smudged mess if you use a blunt pencil. I'm just going to use my eraser to get rid of that line. Although I'm going over with a dark pencil, you don't particularly want any pencil marks to be underneath it. There's always a chance that they could show through, or they could change the way that the coloured pencil lays down over the top of it. Now I am using long oval strokes to get the colour down on here. I don't want to just do straight up and down lines, because if I do, you'll be able to see the very definite lines. But they don't have to be tiny, circular strokes when you're filling in a large area. As you can see, because the pencil's so sharp, I've got a really nice detailed line there, which you wouldn't necessarily get if you were using a blunter pencil. There's always different times that you need different things from your leads. Sometimes you want to have your leads a little bit blunt, a little bit dull for certain techniques. But most of the time, if you're trying to do detailed work, most of the time you will want your leads to be nice and sharp. And there is an amazing range of sharpeners on the market. Now, although this section here that I've just outlined is all quite dark, it's all in shadow, there are other colours going to be incorporated into this section. It's not just going to be very dark grey or black. So I'm not going to put quite as much colour down on this one as I have on the other ones, because I want to be able to actually incorporate the other colours before I put the final layers on top. And come back up to here, because there's some very definite dark lines up here. Whilst I'm doing this, I want to say a very big hi to my new subscribers. It's really nice to have you here. And I hope that by watching my videos you will pick up a few useful hints and tips and will help you in your coloured pencil journey too. Again, if you have any questions at all, whether you've been following my videos from the beginning or you're brand new to them, I am more than happy for anybody to send me any questions that they have. You can either comment underneath the video, or you can send me a message on my Facebook page if you search for North Mayo Fine Art. You can email me directly, northmayofineart@gmail.com. There's lots of different ways. I'm also on Instagram. You can search for me on Instagram as well. But it doesn't matter what the question is, please feel free to ask, and if I can help you out in any way, then I will do. And if you've got a question that could be incorporated into a video and I can actually show you how to do whatever it is you're struggling with, then that's even better. Yeah, as you can see, I'm just laying down the dark areas. So I'm going to carry on doing that, and I will come back once I've finished the front of the wheel and you can see where we go from there. So as you can see, I've now added most of the darkest areas. These will end up darker than they are at the minute, but it just gives you an idea of where the very darkest portions are going to be. So what I'm going to do now is continue to look at the reference photo, and I'm now going to add some of the light areas so that I can make sure that my values are correct. So again, I'm going to start up at the top. Now this colour is a Prisma colour. and it is ginger root. It will end up darker than it currently is, but I just want to give myself an idea of where these colours need to be. And I find that putting them down like this is really helpful. I'm sure you've all noticed that my techniques differ depending on what I'm working on. But I generally try and keep an open mind and won't stick to one specific thing, even if there is a different technique that will work better. If there's a technique that will work better or will give me faster results, then I'll use that. Now this area here is quite patchy, there's some darker brown areas in with this colour, so I'm not going to fill the whole area in with the ginger root. I will leave space for the dark brown to go in there. Now this is the first of probably 5 or 6 layers I'll be putting down on this wheel. So it doesn't, the colours don't look very deep at the minute or very rich, but they will do by the time I've actually got them all down. It's just about taking your time and having patience, really. Because this is quite a light colour and I will be putting darker colours over the top of it, it's not desperately important how I actually lay it down. You can see that I am changing position quite a lot and I am using quite straight strokes on some of it. And it really won't make any difference at all with the finished product because I will be layering probably around about 3 or 4 more colours over the top of this. Never be afraid to use colours that you think might not be absolutely perfect, because you can always blend and combine colours together. Not everybody has every single pencil in every single brand to be able to use. And it's amazing the actual variation of colour you can get from mixing your colours, especially mixing them directly onto the paper. And because I'm using polychromos and Prismacolor, which are both quite creamy pencils, it works really well. It's Very, very effective. So I'm just finishing up this last bit here. And there's just a couple of spots of colour just around here. So there we go. So I'd say that's the lightest colour completed. So now I'm going to move on and I'm going to add another shade of colour, which is going to be slightly different. And again, it's a Prismacolor and it's light umber. And I'm actually going to lay some of this down on top of the colour that I've just put down. And it'll blend together really nicely. Like that. And then we'll come around here. Now you can see I am not in any way, shape or form being perfect with the way I'm laying down my colours. I'm just wanting to get the basic colours in the basic areas. Once I've done that, then I will come in and I will add a lot more detail and be much more precise with the laying down of colours. But for now, I'm just wanting to actually get them in the right place. Now, if you want to blend your colours with blending stumps or the colour shapers or whatever blender you prefer, whichever one you prefer to use, and that's absolutely fine. I'm looking for a certain texture especially on this tyre, because it's the focal point, the centre of the drawing. And I also want it to look realistic, like there is mud on the tyre, and if it's too smooth it won't look great. But by all means, if you want to blend when you're doing a similar technique, then by all means go ahead. Everybody is different and everybody has different techniques and different ways of doing things. Now I'm just going to continue to lay this colour down. As you can see, I'm not pressing down. I'm just letting the colour move across onto the paper without using much pressure at all. Now I'm going to continue to add colours and to layer, and I will come back and show you how I'm getting on in a little while. So as you can see, I've been layering up the colours and I've now started up at the top section, and I'm now working bit by bit down the main part of the tractor tyre, and I'm adding all the colours that I need for each section as I go along. I'm now working on this section. I wanted to actually give you a better idea of how I work section by section. So again, I'm looking at my reference photo and I can see there's a very white highlight there, which I've already added the white on. So as you can see, I'm going up to the white, but it's not going over. And I'm laying up this grey. And I'm also following, generally, the direction of the shape of the tyre. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you want it to look like a tractor tyre, there's different textures, and this area in here It's one of the smooth areas with the highlight there, and it curves just at that angle. So I want to try and include the curve and make it look like a curve. So I'm just adding another layer of the grey. What I can see on the reference photo is there are patches of this very light cream, which was the first layer that I added, which you can still see through the very dark grey. So I want to make sure I leave these highlights so that they show through. So I'm just going to take my time and go around each one so that I don't actually block any of them. Like that. And then I'll work my way around them, getting the grey in between all of the highlighted sections, so you can see a very definite difference between the highlights and the shadows. Now you can see that the brown is still showing through on the grey, which is what I want, because it's the depth of colour that I'm trying to achieve. Because this area is obviously the black rubber and there is mud on it, you will get the two different colours intermingling. Like so. And you can see that I am now actually working in straight lines. That's because I'm following the direction that the rubber is actually curving in, and it gives it more definition. So that's the first layer of grey. And what I also like to do, if there's any sharp definition, I like to try and get the lines in straight away so I don't lose that. There's also a very small amount of this grey just at this bottom line here. As you can see, it's not picking up an awful lot of colour because the white's already down, the highlight, but that just shows you that there is actually a highlight, like that. So now we're going to move on to a darker grey, and we're going to start from here again, and I'm going to go right up to the edge there. Again, I'm working in straight lines because I want to make sure that I get the definition of the curve. But I want to make sure I don't go over these highlighted areas. If you can hear a whistling noise, I do apologise. It's my turf fire. It's freezing here today, so I have lit the fire and I'm keeping warm. But it does tend to whistle when the wind's blowing in a certain direction. So again, I'm going to go around these highlighted areas. Like so, and then come up behind them as well. But I'm only going to go to there because this area, there's a square here which is actually lighter than the rest of it. So I want to define that ever so slightly more, so by making quite a solid line there, it does define it. But I want to Make sure I've still got the depth of colour around these highlighted areas here. And then I can also see on the reference photo that there are a couple of spots of the dark within the light area. Now, I've given you this tip before, but I'll give it again for anybody that hasn't already heard it. When you've got a sharp pencil like this one, when you start using the pencil, obviously the edge of it dulls ever so slightly. In order to keep your pencil sharper for longer, rotate it by 90 or 180 degrees every couple of strokes that you do on your paper, really. And that actually keeps working the very, very point of your pencil and actually keeps it sharper for longer. If you just work on one area of the edge of the pencil, it dulls it very quickly. So that's just a quick tip for you. Now I'm going to come in with my black this time. And it's not going to be on the whole area, just on some portions. Because there are just some small bits that are darker than others. Like so. And as a final touch, I'm just going to go over again with my brown. Now the brown isn't quite as sharp as the other pencils, so it won't leave sharp lines. But it will just add a hint of that colour on, and then one final time over the black. Like so. I would say that section is just about finished. Just add a couple of little marks here and there. Nothing's uniform on a tractor tyre. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even if you get the colours in slightly different places, it's not the end of the world. Nobody is actually going to know the difference unless they've seen exactly the same tractor as you. It's very few people will do. So this is how I am going to continue to do the rest of the wheel now, working from one area to the next, working my way down the front of the tyre and then down the back area, and I will do this flat surface of the tyre and then the actual rim last, and I will come back later and show you the progress that I've made. So as you can see, I've now worked my way around the whole tyre, adding all the different colours and all the different gradients of colours that I want. I'm just going to do the final little finishing touches to this section, and then the actual tyre itself will be complete. Once I've finished these last little bits of colour, I will then be moving on to the central part of the tyre, the rim, which is red and grey, and that will be tomorrow's work. But I've now finished the main part of the tyre, and I'm almost ready to move on. So as you can see, there's lots of different textures in the tyre, none of which I've used a blender on because I wanted the texture to be there. You could always use a blender for these edge sections, which are quite smooth anyway. It's completely your choice. But I've decided not to keep the texture there because I wanted the texture of the mud to show through. This section here just needs to be ever so slightly darker, just on either side of that black line, because that is a a dint within the rubber. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see any more of my work, you can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram and Twitter just by searching for North Mayo Fine Art. Thanks for watching.